Alright, this is Vegeta8259, and we are back for part 2 of the Perfect Grade Gundam Astray Red Frame review. It's kind of a tongue twister almost. Anyway, so we've had our introduction. Now, I think for this part I'm going to do the articulation, which is quite extensive. Part 3 we'll probably do weapons and accessories, and then I'm thinking part 4 I'll review the bonus parts. So let's get started. For head articulation, it's just actually no, it is double jointed. He's got a ball joint at the base of the head, so he can go forward and back, side to side. Can't rotate 360 because he's got these little fin thingies around the collar, which kind of get in the way, so he can rotate his head about that far to each side. And then he's actually got like a kind of a hinge joint at the base of his neck, which will let him go a little bit further back and a little bit further forward. It doesn't really make much of a difference in mobility, so I think you're going to be using most of the movement with that ball joint. Anyway, the torso is quite mobile. He's got it's like a multi-joint in the mid-torso here that lets him move back just a little bit, not much, but it lets him move forward so he can rock back and forth, and lets him rock side to side. And it's nice to see that here between the armor panels you've got like little pistons. You can see a little glint of silver in there for the chrome parts, those pistons moving back and forth. In fact, I should probably do another part of this review and just take all the armor off and show the inner frame. Anyway, there's a rotating joint at the waist, which makes the armor pop off. Can't go 360 though, just because of the design of the suit. It goes about that far, maybe a little bit further if you rotate the joint in his body. The cockpit hatch does open. It's actually pretty intricate. It slides out. This little red part folds down. Cockpit hatch slides out and opens up. And you can see the little pilot in there, logule. And it just folds back in and clicks into place. The backpack, just like on the 1 to 100 scale, can come off, and it goes up and down. This little thingy right here kind of flips up and down. Doesn't really have a purpose. I'm assuming that's some kind of leftover from the Perfect Grade Strike Gundam. See if we can get this back in here. There we go. The beam sabers can rotate on their little axis, and they can go about that far down, that far up. Let's see, the side skirts are on a ball joint. They don't really move all that much though. I move this hand. They can kind of go up and down a little bit. They're actually connected to the front skirts on the inner frame part, so they kind of move together like that. And of course they can rotate a little bit, and then they open up like so for the Gerber straight. Of course, with side skirts this small, you don't really need them to move. The back skirts are on ball joints. They can move up and down, in and out, kind of rotate around, as you would expect ball joints would. Front skirts are also on ball joints, so they can move just kind of willy-nilly. And these little red parts are actually on a little hinge, and they move separately. I'm going to adjust this camera angle as we go down. Alright, the legs are actually, well, the legs and the arms are really cool. Move this arm. Almost any movement you make on the leg, there's going to be a armor panel that moves, and that's what I really like about this Perfect Grade. And the past Bandai tended to have, their gimmick for the Perfect Grades was opening panels, where you could, open the armor panels and see all the little stuff inside. With these newer Perfect Grades, it seems they're going for sliding panels. Oh, almost forgot, this little fin on the back skirt can move up and down. Anyway, the hip joint is actually a peg, which can go about that far forward, good ways back. Ooh, he's a little heavy, I don't want to get off balance. And can go all the way out and rotate. Can't go 360 though because of the armor. But anyway, the real magic happens is when you bend his knee. Keep your eye on the white part, this red part, and this back of the kneecap right here, as well as the front knee armor. As you bend the knee, see the front knee armor comes up and just kind of separates. This back kneecap actually kind of folds down like so, and then something came loose. These two panels right here slide. The red one slides back while the white armor panel slides forward, and it just has a really cool effect. Anyway, I almost forgot to show you the full motion. One of these little joints came loose in his hip. Anyway, if you bend it all the way, the knee armor comes off, and you can bend not quite a full 180. I think the perfect grade strike bends a little bit further, but he goes about that far, which is really good enough for any dynamic poses that you want to pull off. Should be anyway. For the lower leg, the ankle joint causes a lot of these panels to move. If you move the ankle down or up, this little piece of armor right here goes up and down, actually causes that to bulge out a little bit, as well as this red piece of armor here in the front. And if you move the ankle side to side, these two armor panels on the side here slide up and down. So I thought that was really, really nice. Also, this ankle armor goes up and down a little bit. The ankle itself has its own movement. It can go side to side, up and down a little bit. So you see some nice chrome pistons in there. And the foot can bend all the way forward like so. So you can probably get off some pretty good kneeling poses with this perfect grade. Alright, now we go back up to the arms. Speaking of kneeling pose, I think I'm going to kneel Astray down for this arm part. Anyway, the shoulder part that connects to the torso has some mobility in it. It can go up and down, just like the 1 to 100 scale. It can go back and forth a little further forward than it can back. The shoulder armor is separate, and it just kind of holds onto that peg between the shoulder and the arm. Arms can obviously go 360. They can come out about that far. His bicep is actually almost too big to go into the shoulder armor, so if you're going to get it to go all the way out, you're probably going to have to lift this joint right here. Anyway, there's also rotation below the shoulder. Just like the legs, whenever you move something on the arm, armor panels slide all over the place. Bring this down a little bit. Now I'm going to bend the elbow. Keep your eye on this front armor piece and this back one. And bend the lower elbow, nothing really much happens. But when you bend the other part, these armor panels slide and move to adjust to the elbow movement. And also, he's got two more joints in his forearm. One right here, which goes up, and then another right there at the wrist, which doesn't move as much, but it is there. Then bend the elbow all the way, and he can go up and touch his shoulder. Also, for the shield, there's a piece of armor that slides out. It's got this little thing on a hinge right here, which you can pull out and grab it. Open that up, and there's a little hole in there that fits a peg for his shield, which I'll go over later in the weapons and accessories part. I guess last up would be his hands. which are pretty nice, about standard for a perfect grade. He's got a joint right here in the wrist that lets his wrists move down and back like so. Not to mention the ball joint there, so they can rotate and wiggle. The back of his hand actually has some mobility to it. This little front piece right here is separate, so it can wiggle around a little bit when he makes a fist. And of course, all the fingers have all their necessary joints, ball joints, hinges, so you can move it pretty much anywhere you could even want to move it. So, yeah, hand mobility isn't a problem. Never really has been on the perfect grade line. They've always done pretty good with the hands. So, that's about it for part 2 and articulation. Come back for part 3 and we'll go over Astray's weapons and accessories.